let this be your three-way split screen, right? We've got a country in absolute crisis because of the pandemic, right? Too little, too late relief efforts. Bombshell subpoenas for the head of the CDC and the Secretary of Health and Human Services today, the head of the COVID Oversight Committee in Congress, basically alleging that the federal COVID strategy has been so bad, maybe on purpose, that it may be that Trump appointees deliberately scuttled any effective effort at trying to contain this virus because they wanted there to be no prevention of people getting this virus. They wanted to go for mass infections because of their misunderstanding of the theory of herd immunity, right? That's one. Nation in legitimate crisis. Hospitals overfilling. Astonishing death tolls every day, case numbers that still climb, a federal government response that at this point somehow disappeared 900,000 vaccine doses from the Pfizer vaccine for this week with competing explanations from the government that don't make sense in combination, let alone any one of them making sense on its own. That's one. We've got 30 more days of a government being run by President Trump handling the COVID response this way. That's one. Second, we've got a president who is freaking out everyone around him right now. The headlines and the quotes from White House officials just over these last 3 days will curl your hair, right? As Giuliani and the conspiracy theory lawyer Sidney Powell and disgraced and now pardoned National Security Advisor Mike Flynn have been in and out of the White House over the course of this weekend and today reportedly kicking around a Trump declaration of martial law. And as I mentioned, Rudy's plan to have the Homeland Security Department seize the voting machines. He has contacted them directly to try to get them to do that. I mean, look at the headlines and the quotes we've seen just over the past 72 hours. Some White House officials fear Trump's final days. White House officials concerned the president is spending too much time with people they consider to be crackpots or conspiracy theorists. Senior Trump administration officials are increasingly alarmed that President Trump might unleash and abuse the power of the government in an effort to overturn the clear results of the election. An escalating sense of concern among Trump aides, even those who have weathered his previous controversies, about what steps he might take as his term comes to an end. Officials say privately they're worried about what might transpire in coming weeks as the president becomes increasingly desperate. One senior administration official said that when Trump is retweeting threats of putting politicians in jail and spends his time talking to conspiracy nuts who openly say declaring martial law is no big deal, it is impossible not to start getting anxious about how this ends. People who are concerned and nervous aren't the weak-kneed bureaucrats that we loathe, the official added. These are people who have endured arguably more insanity and mayhem than any administration officials in history. Those last two quotes were from Jonathan Swan at Axios, who says this as well on his own Twitter account, quote, "I've been covering Donald Trump for a while. I can't recall hearing more intense concern from senior officials who are actually Trump people." This is sort of the second of the three screens we're looking at right now, right? We've got the COVID catastrophe. We've got the president, the second screen, wound up in such a state, right, with these folks who are telling him he secretly won the election and he can use the government to seize control of voting machines and thereby flip the results. He can declare martial law and somehow suspending civil rights and putting the military in charge and the military in the streets. That will keep him in office, too. I mean, it's alarming enough to senior Trump folks, people in the White House now, that they are rattling the bars and calling reporters and telling them this is the scariest it's ever been. We have no idea what he's going to do these last 30 days, but it's not going to be good. So screen one is the pandemic. Screen two is this rolling disaster at the end of this presidency. And then here's, screen three tonight. Right, the threat of the law. The criminal liability that swirls around the president and looms large for him as he reportedly considers wholesale pardons, including for himself, for his family, for those who run his business, and for those who keep telling him exactly what he wants to hear about whether or not he has to leave office. For pardons for those who keep telling him what he wants to hear, who keep thereby pushing him to more and more extreme options for what he will do next. Oh, you're under active federal criminal investigation, one that's escalating? What do you think we should do about these swing states? You want to call the Homeland Security Department? See if they can take back all the machines? All these things are happening all together, all at once.